You're watching Breakthrough News.
I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein, and you're watching Breakthrough News on BTR Today. On today's show, we're talking about the phenomenon of pet blogs and dog photography. We are obsessed with dogs, so it's perhaps not surprising that they are all over social media in a variety of costumes and settings. And today we have two star photographers of this phenomenon to talk about this with us. Joining us to discuss this is Stephanie McCombie of the popular ifitwags Instagram account, and Elias Friedman, known to the internet as the Doggist for his photos of owners walking dogs throughout New York City. So both of you have acquired huge followings for your photos of dogs that are all adorable. Some of them are actually quite moving. You both started these things in the past year, and now they're all over social media. Elias, what is it about dogs that are so endlessly entertaining to look at and take photos of?
I think people have always been into dogs. That's why they're domesticated. But with things like Instagram and Facebook, it's just sort of the ability to share and take amazing photos has come to the forefront, and it's just it's an amazing thing seeing other people with their dogs and different types of dogs, and what are their names and what are they wearing. It's just sort of a spectacle and especially in New York, it's a thing to watch the dogs run around here.
Stephanie, do you think that these photos change the way that people look at their pets in some way?
I know that it's changed the way that I look at other dogs. I'll see dogs on the street or dogs tied up outside of stores, and I think of how they would look in sort of a photographer's perspective rather than just as the pets that they are. But yeah, I think it's kind of having Instagram and blogs and things, it's made it more accessible for everybody to kind of get their dogs out there and share what's going on. So.
And Stephanie, for your Instagram feed, you focus almost entirely on the same two dogs, right? Two rescued pointers,
yeah.
And you photograph them in a range of poses and scenarios. Have you found yourself over the course of this process actually learning a lot about them just through the process of photographing them and seeing them?
I really have, actually. When I first started, Travis, who's my older rescue, he was totally afraid of the camera. And as we started and he realized he gets a treat every time it comes out, now when we're going for walks, he'll run up to random people that have cameras and sit nicely in front of them and start posing. But I think it's made our relationship a lot closer. Yeah, I know how far I can push it and what they love to do and what they don't like to do. And yeah, it's been really good for us.
Elias, do you find that dogs on the whole make good models? Do they actually know what's going on and what it means to be photographed? Or maybe they don't and that's why they're so natural?
Some are better than others. I think it depends on the breed and what's distracting them. I use a squeaky tennis ball to get their attention oftentimes. Mm-hmm. But so that means the labs will sit for you and the pointers are very attentive, and the some dogs could care less, though, so it really depends on the breed, I think.
Do you think, Elias, that you could achieve the same results with cats? Because certainly cats have, been a big thing with lolcats on social media, but it's not really the same thing. And I've looked at sort of lol dogs, and I don't think it actually works as well as lol cats. But I'm wondering if conversely, there just seems to be such an individuality about the facial expressions and the characters that come through in your photos. And I wonder if you think that that's sort of unique to dogs in a way that you can get that.
Yeah, I think cats have a lot of character also. I actually have all the domains for the cattist. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's an idea. It's a lot more difficult to find cats on the street walking around. But they're fascinating animals. They're beautiful. They're not as dogmatic, if you will, in terms of getting their attention. But I think obviously they're bigger on the internet than dogs, so there's certainly an appetite for pictures of cats.
Stephanie, have you tried photographing cats, or is it just dogs so far?
Well, I'm very allergic to cats, so I haven't. No.
But you have taken a few photos of other dogs as well. I noticed it's not just the pointers.
No, so mostly on my Instagram, I just post my dogs. I think people I've noticed when I do post other dogs, they're not as interested. They kind of want to know what Gus and Travis are up to. But I do take photos of a lot of other dogs. Just don't post them all up there.
And when you're photographing them, how much of it is you telling them what to do? Because a lot of them are in very sort of specific, adorable little hats, or even with fruit on their head, you know, various situations. How much of it do you find that they actually improvise now that they're familiar with the whole process?
They both have really hilarious facial expressions. They both, like Travis is very, very serious. So I think that it's even more comical when you're putting like the funny hats and things on him, because he just looks like this grumpy old man. So I think that they listen to a lot of what I say and take a lot of direction, but I like it better when they're doing their own faces or moving their own way. I think you get the better shot. But I find with my dogs, it's a lot easier to get the shots that I want than trying to use other people's dogs. And I think, I mean, it's our relationship, but it's also that pointers, because they're working dogs, they actually really want to please you and do what you're asking. Whereas like the little Frenchie that you'll see me take photos of, he just wants to, like, you know, run and bowl things over and jump off of whatever I ask him to sit on. So, yeah.
Well, we'll be right back in a moment after a brief excerpt from this week's episode of Serious Business featuring Spirit Kid. Well, we're back with our discussion of dogs and social media. Stephanie, is there a more serious mission or aspect to your photos? Because I know that both the pointers were actually rescued. Are you also, in a sense, trying to raise awareness of abandoned dogs and possibly adopting them, or is that just completely circumstantial?
No, that's why I started it. Was I kept hearing people saying that, you know, there's all these issues with rescue dogs and I would never get one. I'd only want to get a puppy, or I'd only want to get one from a breeder. You know, they come with all this excess baggage. And then I was like, well, wait a second. I have these two awesome pointers that do whatever I want, and they're so well behaved and there's so much personality. And so I just started posting and it just really took off. And I've had quite a few people actually message me now and tell me that they've rescued instead of going to a breeder because of my Instagram account. So I know I'm on the right track.
Elias, you've also mentioned in another interview that sometimes a photo can get a dog out of a shelter. Do you work with shelters specifically sometimes?
Yes, I have. I've been traveling recently, so I'm getting back to photographing some shelter dogs. But I think, you know, that quote was mostly talking about, you know, that my photos end up humanizing dogs in a way that you really see that there's a lot going on inside, you know, their furry little heads, and it, you know, to just it sort of pulls, you know, people empathize with that, and to know that there's all these dogs in need of homes might be, you know, a compelling photograph can make you go out and adopt a dog.
Do you think, and I'll put this question to Stephanie, do you think that there's conversely a danger with these photos, which are so much fun a lot of the time, in actually turning these animals into sort of toys to be played with to the person looking at them? Because that's part of the fun, is almost, you know, throwing a bunch of props on them, you know, and creating these really, really funny images. Do you think there's also a risk with that?
I do mention a lot of the time that, like, in my comments, not to push your dog. You need to really read your dog and know your dog. And like, I know, for instance, Travis loves to balance things on his head. Gus doesn't like it, so I would never do that to Gus. Whereas Gus is quite happy to, like, wear my jacket with the hood up, and Travis would rather not do that. So I read them, and I would never push it further than what they're happy to do.
Elias, when you're taking all these photos, how much do you learn about just the dog's relationship with their owners? Because you're dealing with them every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people express themselves through their dogs, whether it's a a jacket or a haircut or the way that they're talking to them. And, there's a whole story behind what Foofy likes to do. Let me show you this trick. And oftentimes there's a resemblance between the dog and the owner. There are all these stories, and right now I don't include stories. I just include name, breed, and location. But I am accumulating. I'm building a sort of a database of anecdotes that tell more of the story. And sometimes it's very moving and inspiring, and makes me sometimes emotional and happy to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, I think we'll finish on that very uplifting note. That's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. To continue the conversation, share your thoughts with us on Twitter @Breakthrough News. We'll be right back in a moment after this quick excerpt from the latest episode of Live Studio featuring Cheers Elephant performing live at South by Southwest.
I'm not waiting at the door. I'm not living in my bed at midnight. I'm not waiting anymore.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein and this is Breakthrough News, an independent news show for the free thinking web. We bring you a range of voices on the issues that today's generation is thinking about. Be sure to check out breakthroughradio.com through the weekend for our continued Startup Week coverage, including a conversation with VP Marcos Sanchez of app Annie, discussing whether a host of competitors from the messaging services market will become the next WhatsApp. That's it for what's breaking through the news today. Tell us what's breaking through your world on Twitter @Breakthrough News. I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein and thank you for joining us.